Captain Lee Hanna stood on the bridge of the research vessel Defiance, watching the stars drift past through the main viewport. The ship moved through the dark space between systems, carrying its crew of scientists and explorers toward their next mission. She had been captain for 5 years now, but the sight of endless space still amazed her. The communication officer turned toward her. "Captain, we are receiving strange reports from the outer colonies." "What kind of reports?" Lee Hanna asked, walking over to the communication station. "Stories, Captain. The alien traders are talking about an old human legend. They say it is spreading through their sectors like wildfire." Lee Hanna raised an eyebrow. Alien species rarely cared about human stories. "What kind of legend?" The officer pulled up the translated messages on his screen. "They speak of a human who faced death many times and always came out laughing. They call him the Laughing Warrior. Some aliens are scared of the story. Others are curious." This was interesting. Lee Hanna had never heard of such a legend from human space. "Send these reports to Dr. Park Min in the research department. Tell him I want to know more about this." Later that day, Dr. Park Min arrived at the captain's quarters with a data pad full of information. He was a young scientist who specialized in studying alien cultures and their interactions with humans. "Captain, I have been looking into these reports," Park Min said, sitting down across from her desk. "The legend is about a man named Kim Jun. According to the stories, he lived about 300 years ago during the Kepler Wars." Lee Hanna nodded. The Kepler Wars were a dark time in human history when several alien species tried to stop human expansion into space. Many colonies were lost and millions of humans died. "What makes this Kim Jun so special?" she asked. Park Min scrolled through his notes. "The alien stories say he was just a regular soldier, but he survived impossible situations. When his fellow soldiers would panic or give up hope, Kim Jun would start laughing. Not cruel laughter, but genuine joy, as if he found something funny about the whole situation." "That sounds crazy," Lee Hanna said. "That is what makes it interesting, Captain. The aliens who fought against humans in those wars remember him. They say his laughter was more frightening than any weapon. When humans heard him laugh, they would fight harder. When aliens heard it, they would hesitate." Lee Hanna leaned back in her chair. She had studied military history, but this name was not familiar to her. "Are you sure this is not just a made-up story?" "I thought so too, but then I found something else." Park Min switched to another file on his data pad. "I have been monitoring deep space sensors for my current research project. 3 days ago, I detected some very unusual energy readings near the Andromeda Gate. The Andromeda Gate was a massive space structure built by an unknown alien race, millions of years ago. Humans used it for long-distance travel, but no one understood how it worked." "What kind of energy readings?" Lee Hanna asked. "The pattern matches historical records from the ancient archives." "Captain, I think these readings are connected to the Reapers." Lee Hanna felt a chill run down her spine. Every human child learned about the Reapers in school. They were ancient beings who appeared throughout galactic history to destroy advanced civilizations. No one had seen them for thousands of years, and most people thought they were just another legend. "Are you certain about this?" she asked. Park Min nodded seriously. "The energy signature is too similar to ignore, and the timing is strange, Captain. These readings appeared right when the stories about Kim Jun started spreading through alien space." Lee Hanna stood up and walked to her viewport. The idea of the Reapers returning was terrifying, but she was more puzzled than scared. Why would ancient legends about a human soldier interest beings like the Reapers? "I have been thinking about that too," Park Min said. "What if Kim Jun was not just a soldier? What if he actually encountered the Reapers during the Kepler Wars?" This possibility made Lee Hanna think hard. The official history of the Kepler Wars never mentioned the Reapers, but there were many gaps in the records. Entire battles were poorly documented, and some colony attacks had never been fully explained. "Doctor, I want you to research everything you can find about Kim Jun and the Kepler Wars. Focus on Colony 7. That was one of the worst battles, and many records from that time are incomplete." Park Min nodded and started to leave, but Lee Hanna stopped him. "And doctor, keep this information private for now. If the Reapers are truly returning, we need to understand why before we cause panic. After Park Min left, Lee Hana contacted Admiral Yang Su at Earth Command. She explained the situation carefully, making sure not to sound alarmist. "Hana, you know how I feel about ancient legends and ghost stories," Admiral Yang Su said through the communication screen. "But I also trust your judgment. If you think this is worth investigating, then investigate it." "Thank you, Admiral. I want to take the Defiance to the Kepler system. If Kim Jun was real, there might be evidence of him on Colony 7. "Approved. But Hana, if you find anything that suggests the Reapers are actually returning, you contact me immediately." 3 days later, the Defiance arrived at Colony 7. The planet had been rebuilt after the war, but the old battlefield sites were preserved as memorials. Lee Hana led a small team to the surface, including Park Min and their best archaeologist, Dr. Choi Bin. The landing site was quiet and peaceful now, but Lee Hana could imagine how terrible it must have been during the war. Broken pieces of old military equipment still lay scattered across the landscape, too damaged to remove, but too historically important to destroy. Dr. Choi Bin used her equipment to scan for any underground structures or hidden chambers. After several hours of searching, her scanner detected something unusual beneath an old memorial marker. "Captain, there is a sealed chamber under this monument. The construction looks like it is from the war period." Lee Hana felt excitement building in her chest. "Can we access it safely?" "Yes, but it will take some time to cut through the seal without damaging whatever is inside." As Dr. Choi Bin and her team worked to open the chamber, Park Min continued, monitoring his sensors. The strange energy readings were getting stronger, and they seemed to be coming from multiple locations across the galaxy. "Captain," Park Min said quietly, "I think something big is about to happen. The energy patterns are becoming more organized, like someone is waking up after a very long sleep." Lee Hana looked up at the alien stars above Colony 7. Somewhere, out there, ancient forces were stirring. And somehow it all connected to a human soldier who had lived and died 3 centuries ago, a man who faced the darkest moments of war with nothing but laughter. She did not know it yet, but Kim Jun's story was about to change the fate of the entire galaxy. Dr. Choi Bin carefully cut through the ancient seal with her laser tools. The metal was old but strong, and it took 3 hours to create an opening large enough for a person to enter. When the chamber finally opened, stale air rushed out, carrying the smell of old electronics and dust. Lee Hana was the first to enter the hidden room. Her flashlight revealed walls covered with personal belongings and equipment from the Kepler Wars. In the center of the chamber sat an old military desk with a computer terminal that somehow still had power. "This place has been sealed for 300 years, Dr. Choi Bin said, following the captain inside. "Someone wanted to preserve everything exactly as it was." Park Min pointed his scanner at the computer terminal. "Captain, this system is still active. There are files stored in the memory banks." Lee Hana approached the terminal carefully. The screen flickered to life when she touched the activation key. Text appeared in old military code, but the translation software quickly converted it to modern language. "Personal log of Sergeant Kim Jun, 7th Colonial Defense Unit," Lee Hana read aloud. "Entry 1. They say the enemy ships are coming tomorrow. The other soldiers are scared, but I keep thinking about my little sister back on Earth. She always laughed when she was nervous. Maybe that is what I should do too." Park Min and Dr. Choi Bin exchanged glances. This was actually him. Kim Jun was real. Lee Hana continued reading through the log entries. Kim Jun wrote about the battles, his fellow soldiers, and his strange habit of finding humor in the worst situations. But the most interesting entries came from the final weeks of the Colony 7 siege. Entry 47. "Something strange happened today. The enemy ships look different from before. They are bigger and darker, and they make no sound when they move. When they attack, our soldiers do not just die. They give up hope first, then they die. But when I started laughing at how ridiculous the whole situation was, the effect stopped working on people near me." Entry 52. "I figured it out. These new enemies are not just trying to kill us. They are trying to make us lose hope. They feed on despair somehow. But laughter confuses them, Joy confuses them. When I laugh, I am telling them that their power over me is nothing. Lee Hana felt goosebumps on her arms. Kim Jun had not just fought regular aliens during the war. He had fought the Reapers. Entry 61. The dark ships are leaving. We won, but not because we were stronger. We won because I refuse to let them make me despair. The other survivors say I am crazy, but I know the truth. Fear is their weapon. Hope is ours. And sometimes, hope sounds like laughter. Before Lee Hana could read more, Park Min's scanner started beeping urgently. Captain, the energy readings just spiked. Something big is happening in space. They rushed back to the Defiance. On the bridge, the crew was staring at their instruments in amazement. The communication officer turned to Lee Hana with wide eyes. Captain, ships are appearing throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of them. They match no known design. Lee Hana looked at the main screen. Dark shapes were emerging from empty space near every major star system. The ships were massive, black as the void between stars, and they moved without making any sound or light. The Reapers, she whispered. Admiral Yang Su's face appeared on the communication screen, looking grim. Hana, we are seeing the same thing from Earth. These ships have appeared in every human system and most alien systems too, but they are not attacking. They are just waiting. Waiting for what, Admiral? We do not know. They have made no attempt to communicate. They just sit there watching our worlds. Dr. Park Min was studying his readings carefully. Captain, I am detecting scanning beams from the Reaper ships. They are examining our planets, but they seem to be looking for something specific. Over the following days, reports came in from across human space. The Reapers were indeed searching for something. Their ships would move from planet to planet, scanning cities and settlements. Sometimes they would focus their attention on museums, libraries, or military monuments. On the fourth day, the pattern became clear. The Reapers were looking for information about Kim Jun. They visited the military museum on New Seoul, reported Captain Yoon Tae from the outer colonies. They scanned every display about the Kepler Wars. When they found Kim Jun's name in the records, they stopped and examined everything more closely. Similar reports came from dozens of worlds. The Reapers were gathering every piece of information they could find about the laughing soldier. Lee Hana realized what was happening. They remember him. After 300 years, they still remember the human who laughed at them. Dr. Choi Bin had spent days analyzing Kim Jun's personal logs. She discovered that his final entries contained detailed observations about Reaper, behavior, and tactics. Kim Jun had studied his enemies as carefully as they had studied him. Captain, look at this, Dr. Choi Bin said, bringing up one of the last log entries. Kim Jun wrote about the Reaper's weakness. He said they were ancient beings who had forgotten how to feel anything except sadness and anger. That is why laughter confused them so much. It was an emotion they could not understand. But why are they back now? Lee Hana asked. Park Min had a theory. What if they never left? What if they have been sleeping somewhere waiting for the right time to return? And what if Kim Jun's legend spreading through alien space was the signal they were waiting for? The answer came sooner than expected. On the fifth day, every Reaper ship in the galaxy broadcast the same message in all known languages. We seek the one who laughs at death. We seek the one called Kim Jun. We have questions that only he can answer. Admiral Yang Su called an emergency meeting of all human fleet commanders. Lee Hana joined the conference from the Defiance along with representatives from every major colony and military unit. The situation is clear, Admiral Yang Su said. The Reapers want to talk to Kim Jun, but Kim Jun died of old age, 40 years, ago on the farming world of New Busan. Commander Seo Jin from the Defense Fleet spoke up. So what do we tell them? That the man they are looking for is dead? Maybe that is not what they really want, Lee Hana said. Everyone turned to look at her on their screens. Kim Jun kept detailed records of his encounters with the Reapers. What if they are not looking for him personally? What if they want to understand his philosophy, his way of thinking? Dr. Park Min nodded in agreement. The captain might be right. Kim Jun learned something about the Reapers that they want to learn about themselves. Admiral Yang Su was quiet for a long moment. If that is true, then we need to find people who knew Kim Jun personally, people who understood his way of thinking. Lee Hana remembered something from the logs. Kim Jun mentioned a young engineer who worked with him during the final battles, someone named Nam Ki. If he is still alive, he might be our best hope of understanding what the Reapers really want. The search for Nam Ki began immediately. Military records showed that he had survived the war and lived on New Busan, the same world where Kim Jun had died. If they were lucky, the old engineer was still alive and still remembered the laughing soldier who had saved them all. But time was running out. The Reapers were growing impatient, and their dark ships were moving closer to human worlds each day. Soon they would demand answers that humanity might not be able to give. Nam Ki was 87 years old and lived in a small house on the farming world of New Busan. When the military transport arrived at his door, he was sitting on his porch, watching the sunset and drinking tea. Despite his age, his eyes were still bright and alert. "I have been expecting you," he said when Lee Hana introduced herself. "The news feeds have been talking about the Reapers for days, and they mentioned Kim Jun's name." "You knew this would happen?" Lee Hana asked, sitting down on the porch beside the old man. Nam Ki smiled. "Jun always said they would come back someday." He said they were not finished with him, and he was not finished with them either. Lee Hana felt a chill. What did he mean by that? "Come inside," Nam Ki said, standing up slowly. "I have some things to show you." Nam Ki's house was small but comfortable. The walls were covered with photographs from his long life, including several pictures of him as a young man standing next to Kim Jun. In the photos, Kim Jun looked like an ordinary soldier, but his eyes held a spark of humor even in the middle of war. Jun was not like other soldiers, Nam Ki said, pouring tea for his guests. When things got bad, really bad, most people would get scared or angry. But Jun would get curious. He wanted to understand why bad things happened, and he always found something interesting about the worst situations. Dr. Park Min leaned forward. "Can you tell us about the Reapers? What were they like?" Nam Ki's expression became more serious. "They were terrible, but not in the way you might think. The Reapers did not just want to kill us, they wanted us to give up first. They would attack our minds before they attacked our bodies." "How did they do that?" Lee Hana asked. "They would show us visions of hopelessness. They made us see all the ways we could fail, all the reasons why fighting was useless. Most soldiers would see these visions and lose the will to fight. But Jun had a different reaction." Nam Ki walked to a shelf and pulled down an old journal. Jun wrote everything down. He studied the Reapers like a scientist studies insects. He wanted to understand how their minds worked. Lee Hana opened the journal. Kim Jun's handwriting was neat and careful, even during the worst battles. One entry caught her attention. "The Dark Ones think that showing us the truth about death and failure will break us, but they do not understand human nature. When we see how bad things can get, some of us do not give up. Some of us start laughing at the cosmic joke of it all, and laughter is something they have never learned to handle." Nam Ki nodded. That was Jun's great discovery. The Reapers were ancient and powerful, but they had forgotten how to find joy in existence. They only knew sadness and the ending of things. Before they could discuss more, Park Min's communication device started beeping. "Captain, we are receiving a message from the Reaper fleet. They want to meet with us." Lee Hana looked at Nam Ki. "Will you come with us? They want to understand Kim Jun, and you knew him better than anyone." The old engineer smiled. "Jun would never forgive me if I missed this." 2 days later, the Defiance approached the massive Reaper mothership near the edge of the solar system. The alien vessel was the size of a small moon, black as space itself and covered with strange symbols that seemed to move in the light. "They are allowing us to dock," reported the navigation officer. "But Captain, our sensors show thousands of life forms on that ship, and none of them are human." Lee Hana, Nam Ki, and a small team of diplomats entered the Reaper ship through an airlock that adjusted itself to accommodate human needs. The corridors inside were vast and dark, lit by a soft blue glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves. They were led to a huge chamber where hundreds of Reaper beings waited. The Reapers were tall and thin, with pale skin and eyes that looked like they had seen too much sorrow. Their leader, who introduced himself as the Prime Harbinger, stepped forward. "We have waited long to speak with those who knew the laughing. One," the Prime Harbinger said. His voice sounded like wind through empty spaces. "We must understand how he resisted our gift." "Gift?" Lihanna asked. "The gift of ending. The gift of peace through cessation of struggle. All species we have encountered accept this gift eventually. But Kim Jun refused it, and worse, he made others refuse it too." Namki stepped forward, showing no fear despite being surrounded by beings that could destroy planets. "Kim Jun did not refuse your gift because he was brave. He refused it because he understood something you do not." The Prime Harbinger leaned closer. What did he understand? He understood that struggling and suffering are not punishments to be avoided. They are opportunities to create meaning. Every time Jun faced death and chose to laugh instead of despair, he was creating something new in the universe. The Reapers murmured among themselves in their strange language. Finally, the Prime Harbinger spoke again. "We have existed for millions of years. We have seen countless civilizations rise and fall. All of them eventually reach a point where their suffering becomes too great to bear. We end their pain by ending them. This is mercy." "But what if there is another way?" Namki asked. "What if suffering can be transformed into something else?" Kim Jun showed us that even in the worst moments it is possible to find reasons to keep going. Not because life is always good, but because life is always interesting. Lihanna watched the Reapers carefully. She could see that Namki's words were affecting them in ways they did not expect. Some of them looked confused, as if they were trying to remember something they had forgotten long ago. "Show us," the Prime Harbinger said suddenly. "Show us how." The laughing one found meaning in suffering. Namki smiled. "I cannot show you by explaining it. You have to experience it for yourself. But I can tell you stories. Stories about how Kim Jun faced impossible situations and found reasons to laugh." For the next several hours, Namki told the Reapers about Kim Jun's adventures during the war. He described how Jun would make jokes during artillery bombardments, how he would sing silly songs while marching through dangerous territory, and how he would find something to celebrate even after the worst defeats. "One time," Namki said, "we were trapped in a bunker for 3 days with no food and no hope of rescue. The enemy was all around us, and we thought we were going to die. Most of us were ready to give up. But Jun started telling us stories about his childhood, making us laugh even though we were scared. By the time the rescue team found us, we were weak from hunger but strong in spirit." The Prime Harbinger was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded different. Less empty, more curious. This Kim Jun, he knew he was going to die someday, just like everyone else. But he chose to live as if death was not the most important thing about life. "Exactly," Namki said. "Jun used to say that death gives life meaning, but life gives death meaning too. Without the possibility of loss, love would not be precious. Without the possibility of failure, success would not be sweet." The meeting continued for hours. The Reapers asked hundreds of questions about human nature, about Kim Jun's philosophy, and about how humans could find joy in a universe full of pain. Some of their questions were so deep that even Namki had trouble answering them. Finally, the Prime Harbinger made an announcement that surprised everyone. "We must test this philosophy. We must see if humans truly believe what they claim to believe. We will create situations where your survival depends on maintaining hope in the face of certain doom. If you can prove that Kim Jun's way is truly superior to our way, we will consider changing our methods." Lihanna felt her heart sink. "What kind of test?" "The same kind of test that Kim Jun faced 300 years ago. We will give your species the choice between peaceful ending and meaningful struggle. But this time, the test will be much larger." The implications were clear. The Reapers were going to put all of humanity through trials designed to break their spirit. And if humans failed the test, The Reapers would grant them peace by destroying them all. But Namki was smiling. June would have loved this challenge. He always said that the best way to prove a point is to live it, not just talk about it. As they returned to the Defiance, Lee Hana wondered if humanity was ready for what was coming. Kim June had been one special person. Could an entire species learn to laugh at death the way he had? Soon they would find out. The test began 3 days after the meeting with the Prime Harbinger. Across human space, impossible situations started appearing as if from nowhere. The Reapers had decided to see if humanity could really live up to Kim June's example. The first test hit the mining colony of New Jeju. A plague ship appeared in orbit, its hull covered with strange symbols that hurt to look at. The ship began broadcasting a signal that made everyone on the planet feel hopeless and sick. Within hours, half the population was ready to give up and wait for death. Captain Yoon Tae commanded the defense station orbiting New Jeju. He had read Kim June's files and understood what was happening. When his crew started falling into despair, he made a decision that surprised everyone. "Attention all personnel," he announced over the communication system. "I know you all feel terrible, right? Now I feel terrible too, but you know what? This whole situation is so ridiculous that I cannot help but laugh about it." His crew stared at him as if he had lost his mind. "Captain," his first officer said, "how can you laugh? We are all going to die." "Maybe we are," Yoon Tae replied. "But look at this logically. These alien beings traveled across the galaxy just to make us sad. They have technology that can destroy stars, and they are using it to give us bad feelings. If that is not the most absurd thing in the universe, I do not know what is." Despite their fear, some of the crew members started to smile. Captain Yoon Tae continued, "Kim June was right. The only proper response to cosmic horror is cosmic humor. If we are going to die, let us at least die laughing." The effect was immediate. As the crew began to find humor in their situation, the plague ship's signal weakened. The despair that had been crushing them started to lift. They were still in danger, but they were no longer helpless. Working together, they managed to create a countersignal that disrupted the plague ship's broadcast. The ship disappeared as suddenly as it had arrived, but not before sending a message to the Reaper fleet. New Jeju had passed the first test. Similar challenges appeared throughout human space. On the agricultural world of New Daegu, impossible. Rescue missions tested the colonists' determination to save each other. Commander Seo Jin led her teams into situations where success seemed impossible, but they kept trying anyway because giving up was not in their nature. "We might not save everyone," Seo Jin told her rescue workers as they entered a collapsing city. "But we are going to try our best, and we are going to help each other, and we are going to make jokes about how crazy this all is. Because that is what humans do." Her team saved more people than anyone thought possible. Not because they were superhuman, but because they refused to let fear stop them from caring about each other. On the military outpost of New Incheon, General Lim Ho faced the most difficult test of all. The Reapers created a scenario where his forces had to make a last stand against overwhelming odds, knowing that defeat was certain. Most military commanders would focus on dying with honor, but Lim Ho remembered Kim June's approach. "Listen up, everyone," he told his soldiers as enemy forces surrounded their position. "We are probably going to lose this battle, but losing does not mean failing. We fail only if we stop caring about what we are fighting for." His soldiers looked confused, so he explained further. "Kim June taught us that the point is not to win every battle. The point is to make every battle mean something. We are not just fighting for territory or resources. We are fighting for the idea that hope is always worth defending, even when hope seems foolish." The last stand at New Incheon became legendary. Lim Ho's forces did lose the battle, just as expected. But they lost it while laughing at their enemies' attempts to break their spirits. They lost it while protecting civilians and helping wounded comrades. They lost it while proving that humans could face certain defeat without losing their humanity. The Reapers had expected the humans to either give up in despair or fight with desperate fury. Instead, the humans did something unexpected. They faced impossible odds with determination humor, and compassion for each other. Dr. Park Min, meanwhile, had made a crucial discovery while studying the Reaper energy patterns. He found that the ancient beings were not just testing humanity, they were studying human responses with scientific curiosity. "Captain," he told Li Hana as they analyzed the data from all the test sites, "I do not think the Reapers are trying to destroy us. I think they are trying to understand us." "What do you mean?" Li Hana asked. "Look at these readings. Every time humans responded to a test with Kim Jun's philosophy, the Reaper energy signatures changed. They become less chaotic and more organized, as if the Reapers are learning something new about themselves." Li Hana studied the data carefully. Park Min was right. The Reapers were not just observing human behavior, they were being affected by it. "Park Min, I think you have discovered something important. What if the Reapers are not our enemies? What if they are trapped in their own cycle of despair, just like Kim Jun suspected?" This theory was supported by reports from across human space. In every test situation, human laughter and determination seemed to confuse and disorient the Reapers. It was as if they had never encountered beings who could acknowledge suffering without being destroyed by it. Nam Ki, who had remained on the Defiance as an advisor, provided the key insight. The Reapers have spent millions of years believing that consciousness inevitably leads to unbearable suffering. They have made ending that suffering their purpose in life. But what if they are wrong? What if consciousness can lead to joy as well as pain? The old engineer paused, looking out at the stars. Kim Jun used to say that the Reapers were not evil. They were just very, very sad. They had forgotten that sadness and joy are both part of the same experience. You cannot have one without the other. As the test continued, a pattern emerged. Humans were not passing the test by being fearless, or by winning every challenge. They were passing by maintaining their connections to each other and finding meaning in their struggles even when they lost. The Reapers began sending different types of challenges. Instead of trying to induce despair, they started creating situations that tested human compassion, creativity, and humor. It was as if they were trying to understand how these emotions worked. On New Busan, where both Kim Jun and Nam Ki had lived, the Reapers created a final test. They transported the entire population to a barren world with limited resources and told them they had to build a new civilization from nothing. Most species would panic or fight each other for the scarce resources. Instead, the humans started organizing work teams, sharing resources, and making plans for the future. When children started crying because they missed their old homes, the adults told them stories and taught them games. When food ran short, families shared what they had and figured out how to grow more. Most remarkably, when the situation seemed hopeless, someone would always make a joke that reminded everyone why they were worth saving. The laughter would spread through the community, and people would find new energy to keep working together. The Reapers watched all of this with growing amazement. They had never seen a species that could face loss and hardship without losing their ability to care for each other. Humans seemed to get stronger when they were tested, not weaker. After weeks of testing, the Prime Harbinger sent a message to all human worlds. "We have seen enough. You have proven that Kim Jun's philosophy is not just the belief of one unusual individual. It is something that your entire species can embrace. But now we must understand how this is possible." The message continued. "We request a final meeting. This time, we do not want to test your beliefs. We want to learn from them. We want to understand how consciousness can create meaning instead of just suffering." Li Hana realized that the tests had changed the Reapers as much as they had tested humanity. The ancient beings were no longer just observers of life and death. They were becoming students of hope and joy. The final confrontation was about to begin, but it would not be a battle. It would be a conversation between two very different ways of understanding existence. And the outcome would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of consciousness itself in the galaxy. The final meeting took place on Earth's moon, in the same location where humanity had first reached beyond their home planet. Representatives from every human world gathered there, along with the massive Reaper fleet that filled the space around. Luna Lee Hana stood in the center of the meeting hall, holding a data storage device that contained Kim Jun's final message. Dr. Choi Bin had found it hidden in the deepest levels of the Colony 7 archives, sealed with instructions that it should only be opened if the Reapers returned. The Prime Harbinger materialized in the center of the hall, along with dozens of other Reaper beings. But something was different about them now. Their eyes, which had once seemed empty and sorrowful, now held a spark of curiosity. "We have completed our observations," the Prime Harbinger announced. "Your species has shown us something we have not seen in millions of years. You have shown us that consciousness can choose its own response to suffering." Nam Ki, now the oldest human present, stepped forward. Kim Jun would be proud to see this day. He always believed that the universe was big enough for different ways of thinking about life and death. "We must hear his final words," the Prime Harbinger said. "We have searched for them for 3 centuries, but they were hidden from us until now." Lee Hana activated the storage device. Kim Jun's voice filled the chamber, still clear and strong despite being recorded so long ago. "If you are hearing this message, it means the Reapers have returned, and humanity has survived their tests. I am recording this on my final day at Colony 7, and I am an old man now, but I have learned much about our dark visitors." The recording continued. "The Reapers are not evil beings. They are ancient consciousnesses who have experienced so much loss and pain that they have forgotten other possibilities. They harvest civilizations because they believe they are preventing suffering, but they are actually preventing growth." Every person in the chamber listened intently as Kim Jun's voice explained his understanding of the cosmic situation. "I have spent my life studying the Reapers, and I have discovered their greatest weakness. They cannot understand why anyone would choose to exist when existence includes suffering. They see only the pain and ignore the joy. They see only the endings and ignore the beginnings." The Prime Harbinger's form flickered with what might have been emotion. "Continue," he said quietly. Kim Jun's voice went on. "But here is what I learned during our battles. The Reapers themselves are suffering. They are trapped in an endless cycle of ending things because they cannot imagine any other way to deal with the pain of existence. They have made themselves prisoners of their own despair." Lee Hana looked around the chamber. Both humans and Reapers were listening with complete attention. "The truth is that death is not the enemy, and neither are the Reapers. The real enemy is meaninglessness. When life has no purpose, suffering becomes unbearable. But when life has meaning, even suffering can be transformed into something valuable." The recording paused, and Kim Jun's voice became more personal. "I have laughed at death not because I do not fear it, but because I understand that every moment I am alive is a gift. Every connection I make with another person creates something new in the universe. Every time I choose hope over despair, I am adding light to the darkness." Nam Kai wiped tears from his eyes. Even after all these years, Kim Jun's words still moved him. "So here is my final message to the Reapers. You do not have to be the enders of things. You can choose to be the beginners of new things. You can learn to find meaning in existence instead of meaning in endings. You can learn to laugh at the cosmic joke of consciousness, and in that laughter, you can find freedom." The recording ended with Kim Jun's characteristic chuckle. "And if you think I am wrong, well, that is pretty funny too." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then the Prime Harbinger spoke, and his voice sounded different than it ever had before. "We have spent eons believing that consciousness was a mistake in the universe. We thought we were correcting that mistake by ending advanced civilizations before they could suffer too much. But Kim Jun is suggesting that consciousness is not a mistake. It is an opportunity." "An opportunity for what?" asked Admiral Yang Su. "An opportunity to create meaning where none existed before. An opportunity to find joy in the face of chaos. An opportunity to connect with other conscious beings and share the experience of existence." Dr. Park Min stepped forward. "Does that mean you understand now? Do you see why humans choose to keep living even when life is difficult?" The Prime Harbinger's form began to change. The dark, sorrowful appearance was replaced by something brighter and more complex. "We are beginning to understand. For the first time in millions of years, We are curious about what might happen next instead of focused on how things will end. Other Reapers in the chamber began to transform as well. Their forms became more varied and colorful, as if they were remembering how to be individuals instead of just parts of a collective purpose. We have a confession to make, the Prime Harbinger continued. We did not return to your galaxy to destroy you. We returned because we were drawn to Kim Jun's laughter. For 3 centuries we have been replaying our memories of him, trying to understand how he could face us without despair. And what did you discover? Li-Hana asked. We discovered that we had forgotten how to laugh. We had forgotten how to hope. We had forgotten that existence could be anything other than suffering followed by ending. The transformation of the Reapers was remarkable to watch. As they embraced Kim Jun's philosophy, they seemed to become more alive, more individual, more capable of experiencing the full range of consciousness. What will you do now? Nam Ki asked. We will learn, the Prime Harbinger replied. We will travel the galaxy not as harvesters of civilizations, but as students of consciousness. We will study how different species create meaning in their lives. We will learn to find joy in beginnings instead of relief in endings. And if you encounter species that are truly suffering without hope, Admiral Yang Su asked, we will offer them what Kim Jun offered us. We will show them that there are other ways to respond to existence. We will teach them to laugh at the yaoi cosmic joke, and in that laughter, we will all find freedom. The meeting continued for hours as humans and Reapers discussed the future. Plans were made for cultural exchanges, for shared research projects, and for joint exploration of the galaxy. The Reapers would no longer be the mysterious destroyers of civilizations. They would become partners in the grand adventure of consciousness. As the gathering came to an end, Li-Hana found herself standing with Nam Ki, looking out at the earth through the chamber's transparent walls. Kim Jun would have loved this, Nam Ki said softly. He always said that the best jokes are the ones that change how you see everything. What do you mean? Li-Hana asked. Think about it. A human soldier makes some ancient cosmic beings laugh, and it changes the fate of the entire galaxy. If that is not the ultimate cosmic joke, I do not know what is. Li-Hana smiled. Kim Jun's laughter had indeed echoed across the centuries, transforming enemies into friends and despair into hope. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to change in ways no one had expected. The Reapers shared their ancient knowledge with younger species, helping them solve problems that had seemed impossible. In return, they learned about art, music, humor, and the countless ways that conscious beings could create meaning in their lives. A new memorial was built on Colony 7, bearing Kim Jun's final words. Death is just the universe's way of telling us to make every moment count. Might as well laugh about it. But the memorial also included a new inscription, added by the Reapers themselves. And in that laughter, all conscious beings find the courage to begin again. The galaxy was no longer a place where civilizations rose and fell in isolation, always ending in the same cycle of growth and destruction. It had become a place where different forms of consciousness could learn from each other, support each other, and find new ways to create meaning in the vast darkness of space. Years later, when young humans asked about the time when the Reapers returned, their elders would tell them about Kim Jun, the soldier who saved the galaxy not with weapons or technology, but with laughter. They would explain how one man's refusal to despair had taught ancient beings that consciousness was not a burden to be ended, but a gift to be celebrated. And somewhere in the galaxy, on worlds both human and alien, when faced with impossible challenges and overwhelming odds, people would remember Kim Jun's example. They would find reasons to laugh at the cosmic absurdity of their situations. They would choose hope over despair, connection over isolation, and meaning over emptiness. The Reapers, now calling themselves the Shepherds of Joy, continued their travels throughout the galaxy, but instead of harvesting civilizations at their peak, they helped them find new ways to grow and flourish. They shared the lesson that Kim Jun had taught them, that the universe might be vast and uncaring, but conscious beings could fill it with laughter, love, and purpose. In the end, Kim Jun's greatest victory was not that he had defeated the Reapers in battle. His greatest victory was that he had shown them a better way to exist. He had proven that even in the face of cosmic horror, consciousness could choose to create beauty, meaning, and joy.